Naruto knew what he did was low. Itachi was a sore spot for Sasuke, and hitting it like the way he did was cruel of him, but he needed Sasuke to see reason before he proceeded to fight him. Your brother got strong inside the village, Sasuke. You know that he didn't need any outside help to become as strong as he did. Shut up! Sasuke yelled, but made no move to attack Naruto. You know nothing. But Naruto pressed on. Shodai, Nidaime, Sandaime, Yandaime, Sanin, Hatake Sakumo, Maito Dai, Kakashi, Gai. All of these are some of the most powerful shinobi in the world, Sasuke. Do you think that they become powerful by seeking outside help? Make your point already, damn it. My point is, all of these shinobis are products of Konoha, just like your brother. They were not weak, just like your brother. You can become strong as what? Konoha has held me back enough. If that village can't give me the strength I need, I'll take it somewhere else. Sasuke trampled over Naruto's words as if they hadn't even been spoken. He was sick of this. Naruto was starting to get annoyed now. You must have dropped a few brain cells somewhere if you think I'll let Orochimaru have the body of yours. I don't care. Sasuke spread out his arms. If you think that you can make me come back, then I dare you. Go ahead and try. He was particularly inviting him to a fight. Naruto could feel his heartbeat getting faster as adrenaline started flowing. This was his chance to really go all out, but he had to be careful. Sasuke knew how he fought, and he would no doubt be avoiding his palm strikes that Naruto frequently used to slap the Hiraishin mark on his opponents, or just any sort of seal. This would be a completely different type of fight. A fight that was based partially on the mission, and partially to see who was the most powerful between them. Naruto proved himself superior time and time again to Sasuke, but Sasuke seemingly had an edge now, and to be frank, Naruto wanted to drag out the fight simply to pitch himself against the Uchiha, to see where each of them stood. Let the fight begin. Naruto made eye contact with Sasuke under the pretense of glaring at him. Sasuke was about to taunt him further when he felt himself freezing up, immediately recalling a similar incident where Orochimaru had done the same thing. The name of the technique sprang to his mind. Kanashibaru no Jutsu. Before he could flex his chakra to free himself, Naruto had rocketed forward and had ruthlessly slammed him into the wall behind him, his hand pressed against his throat and holding him up. Naruto gazed intensely as he held Sasuke by his throat. That was one of his fastest flash steps, he had to admit, and yet judging by the lack of surprise, Naruto knew that Sasuke had managed to see him, to a degree, as if he knew that Naruto would do that. Naruto's sense rang seconds before Sasuke's knee came up to bury itself in his gut, or what would have been his gut. He had not jumped back. Sasuke sprung forward to engage Naruto in a furious bout of taijutsu. His Sharingan activated the moment Naruto had froze him, and he knew better to underestimate the blonde. Naruto was fast. Faster than Sasuke, but the perceptiveness of his Sharingan allowed Sasuke to either dodge or block hits by the smallest of the margins. Before a rhythm could be established in the fight, Naruto spun a kunai in his right hand and slashed at Sasuke, who mentally cursed and jumped back reflexively, failing to avoid the slash completely. As a result, a small tear appeared in front of his shirt. Naruto gave Sasuke no time to think as he went on the offensive, but Sasuke was willing to take risks, it seemed. Naruto was slightly impressed when Sasuke allowed a punch to penetrate his guard, right into his gut, but Sasuke retaliated right after Naruto's attack, throwing a punch and successfully connecting it to Naruto's cheek, sending him backwards. Sasuke coughed up blood due to the force of the punch. The timing of those two attacks was such that each was thrown back by the attack of the other. Naruto threw fork shuriken at Sasuke with deadly accuracy, which Sasuke jumped to the side to avoid, since he didn't have any shinobi tools for himself. However, Naruto showed off his own ability to predict his opponent as well. As soon as Sasuke had jumped to the side, Naruto was right up on his guard, his left fist slamming into his ribs. Sasuke coughed up blood once more, knowing that even though they hadn't cracked it yet, yeah, nasty bruises will be forming in the area, and the thought sent him into a rage, knowing that Naruto was holding back on him. Naruto could have easily broken them, yet he held back, and that was insulting. Sasuke's Sharingan managed to predict Naruto's attack for him to avoid it in just in time, but it failed to see that Naruto was setting him up. He winced at a force behind the 540-degree kick his left hand blocked, but was caught off guard when his legs were swiped off beneath him. Naruto took full advantage of the maneuver his shadow clone did. Sasuke's legs were swiped with such force that he was horizontal in the air for a moment, which was all the time Naruto needed. Catching Sasuke by the heel, Naruto spun once and threw the Uchiha down, right into the water. He then jumped down on Madara's finger. Watching the splash, Sasuke surfaced in seconds and pulled himself on top of the water. He carefully took note of the receded curse marks. Face it, Sasuke. You have a long way to go until you can match me. Sasuke snarled at the taunt. You have yet seen anything. And stop holding back on me. Naruto narrowed his eyes before jumping down to meet Sasuke halfway. Neither gained any advantage due to their mid-air position, except for pushing each other back. Naruto pulled two of his special kunai out, one held in a reverse grip and the other in a normal. He then dashed towards Sasuke, the other boy doing the same. Due to Sasuke not having any tool of his own, he was at a disadvantage and was hard-pressed to dodge the deadly strikes. His Sharingan was working overtime to predict Naruto's strikes, only partially succeeding. Not only that, but his arms were aching in protest from blocking Naruto's blows and the force behind them. Naruto might be built for speed, but he sure wasn't lacking in the strength department. Naruto dodged a punch and a roundhouse from Sasuke, going into a handstand and spinning to land a vicious double kick to Sasuke's face. Sasuke recovered quickly, however, spinning low and trying to trip Naruto. Naruto flipped forward to avoid that, and Sasuke used the momentum from his spin to throw forward a high kick to Naruto's head. Naruto saw that coming and was able to counter it with a high kick of his own, but he got slightly disbalanced by performing two counters such as those, back to back. Sasuke took full advantage of that and landed a 3-punch combo to Naruto's ribs, following it with a knee to the stomach, but Naruto caught his bearings and blocked any further attacks. Catching Sasuke's wrist and pulling his arm to the side, leaving an opening. Slapping Sasuke's other arm away, Naruto buried a fist into Sasuke's gut, making him cough blood once more. As payback for the combo punch, Naruto released Sasuke's wrist and struck a punch right into his chin. The force was so great it lifted Sasuke off his feet for a moment. Sasuke tried to push the pain aside, but before he could do so, a foot slammed into him, once again in his gut, throwing him almost a dozen feet back. Sasuke recovered, however, mid-rolled and was back on his feet, just in time to dodge the 3-pronged kunai that would have pierced his thigh. Before he could perform hand seals for a jutsu, his Sharingan caught another kunai, tearing towards him. He hastily jumped back, his hand starting a seal sequence. Katan, Kagukaya no Jutsu. In his haste, however, Sasuke forgot for a split second, only remembering when the firewall made its way towards Naruto, what the function of the kunai was. Sure enough, Naruto flashed to the last kunai he had thrown, and shunput to a land flying kick right into Sasuke's face, who had just landed on the ground. The kick sent Sasuke flying further back, sliding on the water. Sasuke grunted in pain as he flipped onto his feet. The fight really wasn't going in his favor. His blows were doing jack to Naruto, while the other blows were slowly wearing him down. Either Naruto had some armor on inside the uniform, or the Kyuubi was healing the damage from Sasuke's blows, or the guy just had really high pain tolerance. Flashing through the seals, Sasuke had electricity crackling in his hands. Chidori! Grinning maniacally, he dashed forward, fully intending to drive the lightning blade through Naruto. Although a part of him knew that Naruto would have a definite counter to him, sure enough, Naruto dashed forward himself, a Rasengan appearing in his hand instantly. Both of them clashed, and the force expelled was such that the water swirled under their feet and raged around them. Both Naruto and Sasuke were trying to trying their damn hardest to push the other back. And push they did. Both of them were thrown back from the backlash of the collision for a few seconds. Sasuke flipped in the air and crashed into the water, submerging for a few seconds. Naruto was lucky to have landed feet first on the water and was sent skidding back a few dozen feet. He stood up in a stance, senses spread in case Sasuke tried to attack from under the water. But the Uchiha emerged from the water, heaving deep breath as he stood up, glaring at Naruto. I really thought the Rasengan would have been stronger against that. Guess I'll have to work on that. He countered my Chidori at full power? Naruto looked at Sasuke with an unreadable look on his face. Then without warning, Naruto flashed through seals. Sasuke instantly copied them, but cursed the fact that he wasn't able to achieve the effects that Naruto did. Clearly, this wasn't the full sequence. 2 drills of water sprang on his sides and barreled into him. He was able to avoid one, but the other crashed into him and sent him flying onto the bank rather painfully. Sasuke coughed as his chest screamed in protest. That really hurt. I can't copy his jutsus if he's not using the full sequence, and he knows that. Worse, I don't know water or air manipulation. In his pain, Sasuke failed to take notice that a Hiraishin kunai was buried right next to him. Naruto had thrown it right when Sasuke had crashed onto the ground to prevent him from knowing about it. So it stood to no reason that Sasuke was shocked and had no counter against the football kick that Naruto smashed into his gut right after flashing in front of him. The force sent new waves of pain coursing through him, as well as sending him skidding back a few feet. You can't beat me, Sasuke. Not with what you have. Naruto's words caused Sasuke to pause, looking up at Naruto with silent rage. In response to his rage, the curse mark was activated, and it spread over Sasuke's entire body, as opposed to one side. Not only that, but for the first time, Naruto's eyes had some alarm in them, as he gazed at Sasuke. Not because of the curse mark, but because of Sasuke's eyes. A third Tomoe appeared in both of the eyes. Sasuke's Sharingan had finally, fully matured. Sasuke snarled in response, not knowing about the change in his eyes. We'll see about that. Speeding through hand seals, a horde of fireballs made their way towards Naruto, who neatly dodged every single one of them. He was barely prepared, however, for Sasuke to be standing right where he was after he dodged the last fireball. On pure reflex, Naruto bent back a fully 90 degrees, avoiding the slash at his throat that Sasuke made holding Naruto's own kunai in hand. He didn't have time to wonder just how fast Sasuke had gotten under the influence of the curse mark, because now he was on defensive. He was reminded of the days when he had practiced the snake-style taijutsu against Anko. Sasuke was relentless, but Naruto didn't need to know the pattern of the attacks to deliver a counter. His left hand came up to grab Sasuke's wrist, stopping the kunai from burying itself in his head. Naruto's left leg came up in a high kick, but was stopped by Sasuke's other hand, immediately lifting the wrist he was grabbing. Naruto used his free leg to jump, twisting so that his thighs were around Sasuke's necks. Using all the force he could muster, Naruto flipped back, slamming Sasuke onto the ground on his front. He flipped back, but was shocked to see that Sasuke had stood up with him. With seemingly no damage, the Uchiha smirked. You might as well give up, if that's all you have. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Looks like I would have to go all out as well. With a half-ram seal, he released all the remaining resistant seals that were activated. It was a level 7, so it should make a difference. Sasuke's face soured when he realized that Naruto was holding back on him still. Looks like you have a death wish after all. With that, he put his new speed to test. In a second, he was in front of Naruto, throwing punches, kicks, jabs, strikes like no one's business. He put his everything in his attacks, trying to inflict all the pain he could on Naruto. But soon his anger and sadistic pleasure switched to irritation as shocked when Naruto countered all his attacks without a problem. He knew something had changed because he could predict Naruto's movements better than before, and realized with a start that his Sharingan had finally fully evolved. Grinning, he jumped back, deciding to switch to long-distance tactics. Naruto was glad to get rid of the last of his seals, because he would need to be at his peak to counter a fully evolved Sharingan that has been enhanced with an outside source. That short but intense Taijutsu bout had pushed him to his maximum, and had told Naruto that this fight had accelerated to a whole new level. He gracefully flipped out of the way of a fireball that Sasuke shot at him, throwing some Hiraishin kunai around the area mid-air. He had a feeling that he was going to need them. He immediately flashed away as the hair on the back of his neck stood up in the warning, and it was good that he did, because Sasuke had been waiting for him on the spot where he was going to land. Where the hell was the speed coming from? His hands came up in a tiger seal, and Sasuke found himself bound with chains made up of water. Both of his hands were held away from him, and no matter how hard he pushed, the chains held. He looked up in alarm as Naruto did a snake seal and spat a compressed ball of wind towards him. Sasuke did not want to find out the effects of that jutsu, so he did something unusual for the very first time. He substituted with a piece of rock without hand seals. He felt a larger than normal drain on his chakra, but it at least got him out of the way. The piece of rock exploded with a bang, tiny chunks of it being blown apart by the explosive wind. With a few quick seals, he sent another fireball Naruto's way, but the blonde simply flashed away, and Sasuke found himself being blown away by an extremely fast wind. The wind was so strong that he was spinning high in the air, and as such was so unable to correct his position mid-air. Naruto took clear advantage of that by speeding through hand seals once more. Suitan, Mizu Tatsumaki no Jutsu, one of his heavy hitters. The jutsu's purpose was to catch Sasuke in its grasp and violently throw him away with the force of a tornado. The spinning vortex of water materialized in a matter of seconds at the spot where Naruto guessed Sasuke would land. Sasuke's eyes widened in alarm when he saw water spinning below him where he would land. He recognized the jutsu as the one Naruto used against Gaara. Just as he landed, he desperately tried to get away, but the vortex had gathered enough speed that the water beneath his feet spun, taking him inside. Sasuke had spun as his body was violently spun in the vortex, and then he was thrown out from it, his body slamming into the rocks and falling down. His muscles screamed in protest as he got up, and he drew even more power from the curse mark, making his recovery faster, but painful nonetheless. Naruto's eye was twitching in irritation upon seeing Sasuke standing up after what happened to him. The rate of recovery that Sasuke was showing was really getting on his nerves. He knew that the curse mark enhanced the subject, but this was ridiculous. He would have to hit Sasuke really hard to put him down, it seemed. He was about to do some hand seals when an idea popped into his head. It was a crazy one, but if it worked, it could put Sasuke down, even in his state. It was a plan that lacked any efficiency whatsoever, but more than made up for it in terms of power, and he had that in spades. 6 shadow clones popped around him. He put his hand on one of his pouches and took an exploding tag out. Not just any tag, but the self-replicating one. Time to initiate the first part of the plan. Handing the tag to one of the clones, he flashed away to prepare on his part. The clones already knew what to do, and so they made their own way down to Sasuke. By the time they had reached, Sasuke had recovered and was mad like no one else. He saw the clones coming and fired off a fireball of epic proportions. One of the clones hung back and formed a bird seal while the others charged straight towards the fireball. Suitan, Sujin Heki. A wall of water sprung up, in which the fireball collided. The fireball turned the entire wall of water into steam, which spread around the area of the clones and Sasuke, who snarled. Don't think this steam can hide you, Naruto. My eyes can see your every single move. To prove his statement, he effortlessly dodged a downward axe kick from a clone behind him. With a near instant reflex, he slammed an elbow into the clone's gut, dissipating it. Another came from his side, and he kicked it out of existence. 4 to go. He heard them before he saw them, and he effortlessly caught the shuriken out of the air, right in his hands, flipping up to avoid the attack from another clone. He threw one shuriken at it. The clone poofed out of existence. 3 to go. He threw the shuriken to his right, but only 2 clones emerged, and both of them avoided it. He engaged the 2 of them, and unlike before, he had little difficulty in countering their moves. One clone flipped away, while Sasuke took advantage of that and punched the other clone out of existence. Turning around to deal with the last one, his eyes widened in alarm when he saw the clone preparing to spit something at him. He cut off the chakra under his feet, going underwater, just as the clone spit out air, clearing all the steam from the area. Its chakra supply depleted, the clone vanished out of existence, but Sasuke felt no victory, even as he dodged attack by going underwater, because right now he was staring at a smirking clone. Both of them were surrounded by a large number of explosive tags. Sasuke knew in an instant that this was a clone because, as reckless Naruto was, even he would not attempt such a move in a close proximity. Only one thought went through his mind right now. Oh crap.
Smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Roll the outro.